Bikers mess with the wrong soldiers at a gas station. It was a warm summer evening on the outskirts of a small town in Texas. The sun had begun its descent, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. At a lonely gas station off the highway, two men in military fatigues stood by their black Chevy Silverado, filling up their tank and stretching their legs. Staff Sergeant Jake Reynolds and his close friend, Sergeant David Carter, had just returned from a 6-month deployment overseas. Both were built like tanks, muscular, disciplined, and battle-hardened from years of service. They weren't the kind to start trouble, but if trouble found them, they were more than capable of handling it. As Jake leaned against the truck, sipping a bottle of water, the distant rumble of motorcycles echoed through the air. Within moments, 5 roaring bikes pulled into the station, each one ridden by a burly, leather-clad biker covered in tattoos and chains. The gang, known as the Hell Reapers, was notorious in the area for causing mayhem. Vandalism, theft, and intimidation were their usual games. One of the bikers, a massive brute with a scar across his cheek and the name Viper patched onto his vest, hopped off his bike and made a beeline for the store. The other 4 followed, shoving past a teenager on his way out. The kid dropped his soda, spilling it over the pavement. The bikers just laughed. Jake and David exchanged a glance. "Typical wannabe tough guys," David muttered. They didn't think much of it until the bikers came back out. Viper clutched a 6-pack of beer in one hand and a bag of chips in the other. But instead of paying, he strutted right out the door. The clerk, a frail old man in his 60s, called out, "Hey, you gotta pay for that." The gang stopped in their tracks. The other bikers grinned like hyenas as Viper turned around, slowly walking up to the elderly man. "Oh yeah? And what if I don't?" Viper sneered, standing toe-to-toe with the clerk. "You gonna stop me, old man?" The clerk swallowed hard, clearly intimidated. But before he could say anything, another voice cut through the tension. "You should put that back and pay for what you took." The bikers turned toward the source of the voice, Jake. He stood casually, arms crossed, his sharp green eyes locked onto Viper. David stood beside him, just as calm, but there was a steel-like authority in their stance. The bikers sized them up. To an untrained eye, they might have looked like just a couple of military guys. But to someone who knew better, the way they carried themselves, the way they moved, it screamed danger. Viper chuckled, shaking his head. "Oh, we got some heroes over here." He took a step closer. "Listen, soldier boy, why don't you and your boyfriend here mind your own business?" David smirked. "Or what? You gonna huff and puff and steal some more chips?" The bikers laughed, but there was an edge to their amusement. Jake took a step forward. "You think you're tough?" He gestured toward the elderly clerk. "This man works hard, and you're just gonna walk in and take what you want? That's not tough. That's weak." The laughter died. Viper's eyes darkened. "You got a big mouth, soldier." "Yeah," Jake said, rolling his shoulders. "I do." Viper growled and swung a meaty fist straight at Jake's face. "Big mistake." Jake ducked under the punch with lightning-fast reflexes and drove his elbow into Viper's gut. The biker let out a wheeze as the air was forced from his lungs. Before he could recover, Jake grabbed him by the wrist, twisted his arm behind his back, and slammed him face first against the hood of the truck. The other bikers rushed forward. David stepped in, throwing a precise, devastating kick into the chest of the nearest one, sending him sprawling. Another tried to swing a chain, but David caught his wrist, twisted it, and sent him crashing to the ground with a swift leg sweep. Jake, still holding Viper in a firm lock, leaned in and whispered, "You picked the wrong guys today." With a final shove, he let Viper go. The gang leader stumbled back, rage and humiliation flashing in his eyes. He clenched his fists, but he knew, deep down, he and his men had just been outclassed. The bikers scrambled to their feet, glaring but staying back. Jake and David stared them down, unshaken. "Take your crew, get on your bikes, and get out of here," David said coolly. "Or we can go for round 2. Viper hesitated for a second before scoffing. "This ain't over," he spat. "Oh, it is," Jake replied. "Now leave." The Hell Reapers exchanged looks before silently climbing onto their bikes. Engines roared to life, and within seconds, they were gone, disappearing into the night. The clerk let out a breath. "I don't know how to thank you boys." Jake smiled. "Just doing what's right, sir." David grabbed a 20 from his wallet and placed it on the counter. "For the trouble." As they got back into their truck, Jake glanced at his friend. "Think we'll see them again?" David smirked. "If they're smart." "No." With that, they pulled out of the station, leaving behind a shaken but grateful clerk and the echoes of justice well served. Little did the Hell Reapers know, they had just messed with the wrong soldiers. Jake and David drove down the highway, the glow of the city lights in the distance. The adrenaline from the gas station encounter had settled, but a lingering tension remained. "You think they'll come after us?" David asked, glancing at Jake. Jake smirked. "They might be dumb, but they're not suicidal. They know what we're capable of." David nodded. "Still, guys like that have a hard time letting things go." They reached the edge of town and pulled into the Iron Horse Bar, a familiar spot where off-duty soldiers and veterans often gathered. It was a place where trouble rarely brewed, mostly because anyone looking for a fight knew they wouldn't last long in a bar full of trained warriors. Inside, the bar was alive with the hum of conversations, laughter, and the occasional clinking of glasses. A classic rock song played on the jukebox. As they walked in, they were greeted by their old buddy, Corporal Mike Turner, a stocky Marine vet with a thick beard and a reputation for being a scrapper. "Well, look who decided to show up," Mike said, clapping Jake on the back. "You guys just get back?" "Yeah," Jake replied. "And we already ran into some local trash." David chuckled. "Couple of bikers thought they could push us around. Didn't go well for them." Mike raised an eyebrow. "Hell Reapers?" "Yeah," Jake confirmed. Mike let out a low whistle. "They've been acting up lately. Think they're trying to prove something." He leaned in. "Rumor is, their leader, Dagger, just got out of prison. Word is, he's looking to make a statement." David sighed. "Great. Just what we need, some two-bit outlaw trying to play king of the road." They didn't think much more of it as the night went on. They had a few drinks, played some pool, and caught up with old friends. But as they were getting ready to leave, something felt off. Jake noticed a group of men near the entrance. Leather vests. Tattoos. The Hell Reapers. Viper was there, his face still bruised from earlier. But standing beside him was someone new, Dagger. Dagger was taller, lean but built like steel wire. His long black hair was slicked back, and a deep scar ran from his temple down to his jaw. Unlike his men, he didn't wear a cocky smirk. His eyes were cold, calculated. Jake and David locked eyes with him, but they didn't flinch. Dagger stepped forward, his boots heavy against the wooden floor. The entire bar went quiet, sensing the tension thickening in the air. "I hear you two had a run-in with my boys," Dagger said, his voice smooth but threatening. David took a slow sip of his beer before answering. "Yeah. They were stealing from an old man. We didn't like that." Dagger let out a small chuckle. "That's cute. You see, around here, when you mess with my guys, you mess with me." Jake set his drink down. "Then I guess we're messing with you." The room held its breath. Dagger's fingers flexed, but he didn't strike, not yet. Instead, he tilted his head. "You boys military?" Jake nodded. "Yeah." Dagger exhaled through his nose. "Figures. You military types always think you're untouchable." Mike, who had been standing nearby, stepped forward. "That's 'cause we usually are." The bikers shifted uncomfortably. The odds weren't in their favor. Sure, they had numbers, but this wasn't a normal bar fight. They were surrounded by men who had fought real wars, men who didn't need knives or chains to break someone in half. Dagger studied them for a moment before nodding. "We'll see each other again," he said simply. "But when we do, it won't be in some bar." With that, he turned on his heel and walked out, his men following close behind. Jake let out a slow breath. "That was fun." David chuckled. "Yeah, real fun." Mike smirked. "Guess you boys just made some enemies." Jake finished his drink. Wouldn't be the first time. But deep down, they knew this wasn't over. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Jake and David had been keeping an eye out, but there was no sign of the Hell Reapers. No retaliation, no threats, just silence. But they both knew men like Dagger didn't let things go. This wasn't over. Then, one night, it happened. The ambush. Jake and David were heading home from a late workout, their truck rolling down a dark back road leading to their neighborhood. The night was thick with fog, the headlights barely cutting through the mist. That's when Jake noticed it. A pair of headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. Then another, and another. Within seconds, 5 motorcycles flanked them, engines roaring like wild beasts. David cursed. "Told you they wouldn't let this go." Before Jake could respond, the lead biker, Viper, swerved closer and slammed a crowbar against the side of the truck, sending a loud clang through the night. Jake tightened his grip on the wheel. "All right. They want to play." David cracked his knuckles. Let's play. One of the bikers pulled ahead, trying to force them off the road. Big mistake. Jake yanked the wheel hard to the right, clipping the bike's rear tire. The rider lost control, his bike spinning out before crashing into a ditch. That sent the rest of the gang into a frenzy. Two more bikers sped up, trying to box them in. One reached for a gun. David didn't hesitate. He rolled down the window, leaned out, and with military precision, threw his elbow into the gunman's face. The biker yelped, his gun flying out of his hand before his bike skidded sideways and sent him tumbling onto the pavement. Another biker pulled up on Jake's side, a chain swinging in his hand. Jake smirked. I got this. As the biker swung the chain, Jake slammed on the brakes. The sudden stop sent the biker flying forward, his bike flipping end over end before crashing in a heap. That left only two, Viper and Dagger. Dagger pulled up alongside the driver's side, matching their speed. He didn't look panicked. He was smiling. Then Jake saw it, a sawed-off shotgun in Dagger's hand. Before he could react, Dagger fired. The blast shattered the driver's side window, sending shards of glass everywhere. Jake swerved, barely keeping control. David grabbed Jake's shoulder. Floor it. Jake slammed the gas. The truck roared forward, leaving the last two bikers in the dust. But Dagger wasn't giving up. He signaled to Viper, and they both sped up. Then, up ahead, Jake saw something that gave him an idea, a construction zone. The road narrowed, and there was only one lane open. On the side, a massive pile of steel pipes stacked near the edge. Jake grinned. Hang on. David barely had time to brace before Jake veered into the narrow lane. Dagger and Viper followed, their bikes right on their tail. Then, at the last second, Jake jerked the wheel hard left and slammed the back of the truck into the stack of pipes. The impact sent dozens of heavy steel pipes rolling onto the road. Dagger and Viper didn't stand a chance. The pipes tumbled like giant logs, crashing into their bikes. Viper's front tire hit a pipe and flipped him over his handlebars, sending him skidding across the asphalt. Dagger tried to swerve, but it was too late. One of the biggest pipes slammed into his bike, sending it into a violent spin. Dagger was launched through the air before smashing into a guardrail. His body went limp. Silence. Jake and David came to a slow stop, breathing hard. David exhaled. Well, that was fun. Jake smirked. Told you we were untouchable. They got out of the truck and walked over to the wreckage. Viper groaned, struggling to move. But Dagger? He wasn't going anywhere. He was conscious, but barely. Jake crouched down next to him. Next time you pick a fight, make sure it's not with men who've been through real war. David leaned in. And in case you're wondering, yeah, we're letting the cops handle the rest. As if on cue, sirens blared in the distance. Jake stood up. Game over. And with that, they walked back to their truck, leaving the Hell Reapers in the dust.